Hello and good evening to everyone. I, on behalf of
काय
Team
बोली ना
Samanuvidatr, welcome you all for today's webinar 106, What After Bachelor of Architecture, where you will get guidance from experts in the field of graphic design, furniture design, and landscape design. I now hand over the session to architect Zarna Shah, the founder member of Samanuvidatr, to introduce our company. Over to you, Zarna.
Hi everyone. I guess I already did introduction a lot about our company, but yes, there is much more except the education. We are into research, basically for the intangible cultural heritage. We do a few projects here and there for conservation. We also do projects related to interiors, architectural projects. And there are many more educational programs coming up with us, and we are great to have everyone here today. Myself Zarna Shah, and I'm an architect. I have pursued my bachelor's in architecture, master's in professional studies, where my concentrations were in graphic design and furniture design. Also, I have done masters in urban conservation from India itself. I've worked in Texas. I've worked in India with a UK-based company. I'm an individual member of e-commerce India and co-coordinator of NSC ARSA, which works towards the structural resistance and awareness about the heritage. And I'm an associate member for Triple ID and Indian Institute of Architects also. And that's a small bio for me, and I would like to hand over it to Sanjukta Das now, and she will take up from here. Thanks, Sanjukta.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Zaina. Well, myself, architect Sanjukta Das. I have completed my Bachelor of Architecture from Pilumodi College of Architecture. I have also done my master's in urban conservation from Mumbai. I have an experience of almost more than 5.5 years, both in the field of professional and academic field of architecture. So currently I'm associated with Samanuvidatr as a researcher. And I have also I'm focused in the field of heritage conservation, especially in looking after sites of cultural landscapes importance. I have also presented few research paper on the conservation of cultural landscapes in Belgium and Budapest back in the year 2019. And right now I'm also into architecture education and working with Samanuvidatr as a mid-level principal and researcher. So that's it. Now I would like to hand over to Mitali for her introduction. Over to you, Mitali.
I would take up on behalf of Mitali.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Mitali, are you able to join us?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, great. I guess she missed. Is she here? No. Yeah, so Mitali is also an mid-level principal at Samanuvidatr, and she majorly takeovers in architectural department at our firm. She handles all the educational programs we are working on, workshops and all. And also she look overs the architectural projects. She has also been graduated in urban conservation from Mumbai, and she's also a very enthusiastic member of our team working towards the art and architecture. And that's the team of me right now. We are, and we have a few interns with us for, they are helping us for all these workshops and all. So I would like Sanjukta to introduce our first speaker today. Welcome, Casey. Thank you so much for being with us and promptly taking us the invitation for webinar. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Zarna. We now move to our first session by our expert speaker, Casey Kelly. She is a designer, consultant, and educator who works directly with clients, brands, agencies, and people who are passionate about what they do. She has worked as a designer and art director at Crowley Web and project manager and designer at Grammy-winning design studio White Bicycle. Currently, she works with a variety of clients and projects while she serves as a visiting assistant professor of graphic design. She has worked with many brands, including Sony, Andrew Bird, Alanis Morissette, Comcast, uh, Companies 43 North, M&T Bank, Buffalo Orchestra, Penny Art Center, OXY, Photo, Softlets, and Borderland Music Festival, among others. Her professional work focuses on strategy, branding, identity, logo design, packaging, UI design, web design, motion graphics, and social media content. Now I welcome Casey for today's webinar, and now I would request you to start with the session. Over to you, Casey, and thank you for being a part of this webinar.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate it. I hope that the things I'm going to share this morning are helpful, and I have my information shared at the end of the presentation for anyone who has questions or wants to reach out as well. So I'll share my screen here right now, if that's all right with everyone. Yes. And I put together some slides that kind of talk about graphic design and the opportunities that are available in it. And I'll talk a little bit about where I landed as well, because there are so many different things we can do as designers, as many of you know. And a lot of these things I wasn't necessarily aware of when I first started my career. So hopefully the conversation today might give you some ideas for things that you could think about.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you make it a full screen, please?
Oh, sure. Hold on one second. There we go. Are you able to see it?
Yes, but it's still not the full screen on my side. I'm not so sure.
All right, let me try to reshare it. I'll stop sharing and then resharing. Sometimes when I share things and don't go right to full screen, it doesn't show it.
Yeah, true. After we share the screen and then we try to make it full screen, it doesn't appear that.
I have it in full screen again. Did it change?
No. I guess what you do is, Casey, make it full screen already and then share it. So it will share the full screen one.
That's a good idea. Hold on just a moment. I apologize. I'll blame it on being early over here.
No worries, no worries. It's completely fine.
Is that better?
Oh, it is superb. Thanks.
Okay. Wonderful. So this question might seem very simple, but it's something that I ask myself often. And for anyone who's thinking about design, it's great to think about. There are a lot of different definitions for graphic design, and that's because there are so many things you can do with it. So in short, for those of you who are thinking about design or who are in design, it's really good to understand these things because it will help you kind of decide on your career and understand where you want to go. I like this definition. It says design is a craft where professionals can create visual content to communicate messages. So the word communication is really important in design, and it ends up being a very broad thing that we can use our skill sets to. This is my definition of design, and I think it has served my career very well. And I think design is empathy that creates understanding. And being a designer is all about understanding the problems you're trying to solve and understanding the people you're trying to solve them for. And the reason I bring this up is because the term graphic design is a little bit gray and blurry. It's not necessarily clearly defined, and that's okay. And I challenge everyone here who's interested in design to kind of build your own definition of it as you grow, and build it based on your perspectives, on your interests, on your skill sets, and on your career goals. And this definition for me evolves as I evolve too. So that's kind of a great thing you can take with you as you either go through school or start your career. Here's a question I get often from people who are thinking about design or interested in it. What does it take to be a graphic designer? So the one question I get is, what does it take? And the reason I asked this question up on the screen, are you sick of these questions yet, is because as a graphic designer, we're in the business of asking questions. And the reason we are is because we have to try to understand the things and the problems we're trying to solve through questioning things, through research, through participating in things that have to do with what we're trying to do. So at first, when we're given a design challenge or a project, we're not going to know all the answers. And I think this goes for anything, you know, whether you're in architecture, whether you're in the sciences, and it's really important to keep always asking questions. And if you think you know the answers, it means you're making assumptions and you might not get to the best results. I won't show this on my screen, but if you do Google Ira Glass on starting out as a creative, and I can share this presentation with Zarna as well, but there's a really great short video on the frustrations that happen when you start as a designer and how to get through creative blocks and how to kind of find yourself as a designer. So here's a little bit of advice that I kind of wish I would have known when I first started out. And one of them is to be curious and approach the world with wonder. I think it's really important to always ask questions and look at things with fresh eyes. And that's because when you ask questions, you might find out new information and you might come up with the answer to a problem that you're trying to solve or a new design that you're trying to come up with. And then there's a lot of other skills that as designers we need that might not be, you know, technical or something that we learn at college that are very important. And a lot of times we'll be working on projects that have to have a lot of versatility in them. So you have to be, you know, jumping from one thing to the other. You're often working with other people and you're often given a lot of criticism. So in school, you know, there are design critiques or times that you'll talk about work. And sometimes those are hard conversations because the feedback that you get is really challenging. But as a working professional, it's really important to understand how to handle these things and how to really listen to the people that you're working with. Because somebody might say they don't like something, but there might be another reason behind that. So being able to understand people and work with others and, you know, kind of embrace the problems that you're facing is really important. It's okay to mess up. And one thing that I did is a lot of work. When I first graduated, I really dove into my career, which I'll talk about in a little while, but I tried to make as many things as I could and do as much as I could. And I always tried to ask people in my industry what they were doing and how they got there. And it kind of helped me figure out what I liked as well. And with that came a lot of frustration. And that's because, you know, when you're first starting out, you might not know everything. So it takes a lot longer to get things done, or it takes a lot longer to find your path. And these are kind of three skills that I think are really important in order to be a good designer when you come out of school. So, or, you know, as you learn it on your own or things like that. So there's these three words, context, practice, and foundations. Context is a lot of the things I just talked about. So being curious, being diverse, and really understanding a lot of different perspectives in life and in things. And then practice is kind of the more practical things. So learning the technical side of design, understanding different tools, understanding what's current and relevant. And I've been in the design field. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2008, so I've been in it for quite a while now. And the tools have changed so much since I graduated. So you have to make sure to keep staying up on all those things if you want to keep up with your career. And then the last things are foundational skills, which have to do with a lot of the question asking and problem solving, and also understanding how to go from point A to B as well. And all these things kind of evolve as you grow too. So my challenge to you, if you're interested in design, is to take these three kind of pillars and try to apply them to your life and your design practice and see where they take you. So what types of graphic design are there? Some of you might know this question, and you don't have to tell me if you're unsure, but just think about this for a minute. What kinds of graphic design are there? When I think about that, my mind starts to expand in a way that makes me feel overwhelmed, and it's because there are so many things we can do as designers. One thing that I pride myself in is visual identity design. That has to do with branding, logo design, and helping different companies either launch or kind of grow and evolve. And that's a really great kind of avenue to take if you're interested in. Marketing and advertising is another type of design that you can get into, and that is essentially helping companies sell their products. UI design stands for user interface, and that is helping to design the look and feel of apps and websites and digital technology. UI design even comes into play with everyday products as well. And then there's publication design. This one has been around for a very long time, but it's near and dear to my heart. I love designing a nice book or a newspaper. And if things are designed well, there's certainly a time and a place for publication design, even in today's age where we're all on the internet all the time. Packaging design is another one that you can get into as a designer. With my degree that I earned, I worked on packaging a lot when I first got into my career. The thing about packaging is that, and a lot of these things that I'm talking about, is that you might learn a little bit about it in school, but then once you get into a project, or if you're working at a design studio or a design agency, you kind of have to start to figure out a lot of these things on your own in terms of materials and how things are constructed. So it's really important to be resourceful and to also try to find people in your life that you look up to who might be knowledgeable in the type of design that you want to get into. There were a couple little motion graphics pieces here, but they're not translating when I'm sharing my screen. But motion design is another big one that has come up, especially as of recently. We see motion design all over the place every day, especially on social media. It's become really important. And that has become kind of integrated into a lot of design curriculum. Where I currently teach at RIT, all graphic design students in their bachelor's degree are required to take at least 2 motion design classes. So this is another skill that you might have as a designer, and it is beneficial. And then there's environmental design, and this doesn't necessarily mean environmental in terms of being green and being connected with nature. It means designing for environments and spaces. It's oftentimes when you're working in environmental design, you'll be working with architects and interior designers, and you'll be helping to apply brand elements to spaces. So in these examples that I found that I thought were really interesting, you see on the left this beautiful bakery that has, you know, these chalkboard illustrations that maybe a designer or an illustrator worked on. And then it's pretty obvious that an architect and an interior designer probably worked on the space as well. So that's another fun thing that you can start to think about. Sometimes graphic designers are really into creating art, so they might get into more illustrative design. And there's things like this that we see on the screen that you might end up creating. And these could be part of a brand kit, or maybe, you know, you end up designing for a publication that needs an illustration once a week, and it has to speak to the content that they're putting out. So if you are into illustration, sometimes as a designer, you can kind of get into it that way. And a lot of designers do end up creating more graphic illustrations and things that feel almost like a mix or a blend between illustration and graphic design. Another different avenue, I'm sure you're probably getting a little overwhelmed because there are so many different things you can do, but another one is merchandise design. And this is one of my favorites as well. I love designing different things for different events. And I worked on a music festival brand 2 or 3 years ago, and there was a ton of merchandise that we had to design. So rather than just slapping a logo on something, we created a whole kind of variety of merchandise that were different and interesting, but they still felt like the festival. So merch design is a great thing to get into, and it can be very creative as well. And then I think this is one of the last ones I'm sharing in terms of different types of design that you might get into. And this one has become more and more prominent over the years, especially with how many different types of social media there are out there and how many people and brands are looking to have good, strong social presence. And that's content design. A lot of times when you're working on content, you'll be given brand assets and you have to help kind of rehash them or redesign them in a way that feels consistent and interesting for the brand or the cause that you're working on. And you'll sometimes work with copywriters or people who write copy or come up with ideas, and you kind of collaborate on content. And sometimes brands will have very specific schedules or goals for their content. So as a designer, you're always thinking about what these brands' goals are and how do I apply them in a visual way that might help people get interested in the brand so that they achieve their goals. So another question I thought some of you might be interested in is what graphic design career tracks are there? And as I just noted, there's all different kinds of things you can do as a designer, and you might do many of those things at one job. But the other great thing is that there are a lot of different design career tracks too. So I made a list of just a few of the types of designers that I'm aware of out there, and there are many more, but a lot of these terms that you see here up on the screen have to do with some of the things that I just shared. So some people might specialize in motion design, or they might only do content design. A graphic designer or an art director might do a mix of all those things. And a production designer might actually be working on the side of where they help to make things. So they're working on the more technical end of things. And then where do you start? There's a lot of places to start. Internships are always great. I think that's one of the best places to start. That's kind of how I got my career up and going. But there are big agencies that you can work at. You can pursue a career in-house, meaning you work for the brand itself. There are smaller design studios. You could be a freelancer. You could get into the tech industry, or maybe you work for a startup. There's many more than these, but these are just a few that are worth thinking about. So the last thing I want to talk about is my design journey. And I just want to share this a little bit to give you an idea that there is no right path, there is no straight path in a graphic design career. And it's really important to start to understand what you like yourself so that you're happy and fulfilled in your design career. So some people won't stay at the same job for years. They might stay at the same job for years and work their way up, and that's great. Some people try working a lot of different jobs, and then some people might not even have a traditional design job, but they use the skills they learned. I've seen a lot of graphic designers go into fields that have very little to do with graphic design, but they're using those skills and they're very appreciated. My particular path, it's been all over the place. I got my BFA in graphic design in 2008 in the United States. And right upon graduating, I had a job and I hated it. It wasn't a good fit for me. The people were great, but I didn't like the work. And that only lasted 3 months. And during those 3 months, I was questioning whether I did the right thing or if I, chose the right career. And I was really nervous about it. And it ended up being that I did choose the right career, which is good. So after that, I actually got a job 3 months later at a small agency, and I stayed there for 2 years and I loved it. It was a lot of hard work and I had a ton of questions and I was there many late nights, but I learned so much at that place. And then from there, I worked at a large agency. So I kind of had the small experience and then I had the large experience. And then after 3 years of working, I went back for my MFA at RIT. And that's where I met Zarna as well. And I went back for my MFA because I thought at some point I might want to get into teaching graphic design. So I thought I'd get that out of the way so that I could continue in my career for a while before I taught design. And then my path keeps going because it's been a long, windy one in a good way. But after I got my MFA, I worked at a small studio for about 6.5 years. There were 4 of us there, and it was some of the best design I've created and some of the most creative work I've done. And it was so much fun. I absolutely loved it there. And the only reason I left is because I had the opportunity to teach at a small college full time. So I took on that opportunity to teach. And I also had my own design business so that I could keep practicing design while I was teaching. I think that as an educator, it's very important to remain connected to either research or your industry so that when you're teaching, you can bring those things into the classroom and really help students in a practical way. So as of today, I'm working at RIT as a visiting professor. I have a year contract there. And I put next with a question mark because I think there are a lot of opportunities coming up, but I'm pretty certain that I'm going to pursue my freelance career more and potentially open up a studio in the United States on my own in the near future, which should be really fun. So you don't need to remember everything I just said. There's a lot of twists and turns in what have happened, and there's a lot of details I didn't even kind of cover, but I'm showing you what my path was just to demonstrate that you can be really successful and try a lot of things. That's completely okay. And some of the jobs that you have, you might not love, but it will help you understand where you want to go and what you like and don't like about design in general. So that's kind of the what I wanted to share with everyone today. And I'm more than happy to answer questions. I also shared my information here on this slide in case if anyone wants to reach out. I'm always happy to help people out. And personally, I always love to learn about what you're up to as well. And I love to connect with people. And I think the more you can connect with people, especially from all over the world, the better understanding you have as a designer and the more fun things can be too, because we get to do things like this. I just wanted to thank Zarna for inviting me today. And I hope that those of you who are listening got something from this conversation. I'd be happy to answer any questions too, if anybody does have them.
Yes, thank you, Casey. That was really very interesting to know, and especially the projects work which you have showed. I really like that. I am sure the participants who are here, they must have got an idea, a brief idea about what graphic design is all about and what can be their career opportunities ahead. I'll just check whatever questions we have.
You see, there is a one question. How did you decided to take up graphic design? Like, what made you think that this will be the field for you?
I should have mentioned that in my presentation. That's a very standard, good question. Thank you.
It's standard, but
Yeah.
like that, you how someone can think that okay, this is going to be the one.
So when I was in high school, I loved painting and drawing, and I really wanted to be a fine artist. And I I liked two things. I either wanted to be a fine artist or to be a physical sports therapist, which are two very opposite things. And when I was looking at schools for physical therapy, I stumbled upon graphic design and I had never heard of it before. And my parents weren't very excited about me pursuing a fine arts career. And that's not at all a knock on the fine arts. There are so many wonderful fine artists who are amazing that I know. I just don't think I had the skills to be able to pull that off. So my parents were trying to encourage me in a different direction. And I stumbled upon design when I was looking at schools. And I didn't really know what to look for in the design programs because I was in high school and I thought, all the programs must be the same in the different schools. So I ended up applying to a few for graphic design and the rest is history. I ended up absolutely loving it. And here I am.
Yeah, but you are doing really great. I must say you chose the perfect one. That's why I'm asking you, because you chose a field and you are doing really great in it. It's like, you made the best decision for yourself. There is one more question, Casey. Will an internship help me learn graphic designing more better, or should I spend some time learning it by doing a course? She is in a final year of computer science engineering.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a lot of times it depends on what you want out of your career. And in terms of internships, a lot of times you have to have a graphic design portfolio in order to apply and get internships. I think it depends where you're at and what you're applying for. So if you don't have a portfolio, I would suggest that maybe you take a design portfolio class or look up some different webinars or maybe boot camps on building a design portfolio. Because in order to get an internship, you have to demonstrate that you're proficient at design. And I know that in the US, getting internships is very competitive because there are a lot of really strong student design portfolios. So I always stress with my students, if you want an internship, you need to really make sure you're doing the work and understanding design and that you have good examples of work, but you also kind of understand what design is. So my suggestion to you would be to probably take a few courses first, or at least attend some workshops and try to develop some examples of design projects in order to get an internship.
I would completely agree with you, Casey, because I remember I had 2-3 students from the same computer science field and they wanted to pursue masters in design. So when they reached out to me, what we did was, the kind of exercises Bruce sir used to give us, different forms where things are explained that, okay, you have those skills that you can pursue such a career. So I prepared few exercises. I've learned a lot from him there. So I was able to, create different exercises for him, and he made a great portfolio. I suppose he is now graduate from his master's course, but yeah, that really helps because building portfolio is much important than just thinking of doing a course or something. We have one more. What are the different subjects you studied in graphic design, and what softwares did you use?
Okay, yeah, that's another great question. So when I was going for my bachelor's degree back in 2004, some of the classes were different because the industry evolved so quickly with technology and everything. But I think it's really important. There are a few things that are very important as a designer. I think they will always be important. One of them is, if you're looking at a school or into workshops, is to understand what design principles and design foundations are. And understanding the basics such as composition, gestalt theory, it's called, form, function, all those basics will really help you have a solid foundation for setting up good design. And that could be good design in any one of those types of topics that I talked about earlier too. So that's a really important thing to kind of understand about a school if you're looking for one. What is your curriculum and what do you offer? And you always want to look for some sort of foundation or kind of design principles classes. One other thing that's important is typography, as Zarna knows. I think we're in a typography class together. Yeah. So type is important. And then the other thing is that because design is so broad, if you're looking at a program, it might be worth looking at the classes they offer kind of as elective classes. So it means they're not part of the curriculum, but you could potentially take them. And if you're interested in UX and UI or web design, then make sure that you're going to a place that has a lot of those classes or is known for that. If you're interested in, more criticism and theory and the less applied design, make sure the school has, that. It's good to kind of look at the different range of things that places offer because there are some differences, and you want to ask people those things. So to make a long answer short, I took a lot of typography classes. I took some foundations classes. It's important to learn the tools, but anybody can learn the tools. So as a designer, if you understand design thinking and the foundations, that's really what sets you apart from someone who might know how to use the tools, but doesn't understand design. I think that's the tact I would always take when I look for classes. And then in terms of tools, I use the Adobe Creative Suite for the most part. In my career, I use Adobe XD, InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop the most. Most recently, in terms of collaborative tools, I've been using Miro with my students, which is great for working remotely. And that's more of a project planning kind of collaboration tool than a design tool. And then one that I'm just getting into is Figma too. And I haven't used it a lot yet, but Figma is an up and coming tool as well.
Do you think, Casey, prior knowledge of different softwares like we used to use InDesign, Illustrator and all will help, or it is fine to get into the field with the hand skills, sketching skills, and learn the softwares later?
I think it's important to know both if you're going to practice as a designer. I think good designers have a balance of those three things that I shared in my presentation. So contextual skills, practical skills, and foundational skills. And if you have more of one than the other, then you might just end up in a different place in your career. So if you have more technical skills and you only know the programs, you might end up working, as a production designer where you're working like on the back end of websites or maybe making buttons, or maybe you're helping to send things to print and prepping files for print. Versus if you take a more conceptual route where you're learning about how to come up with ideas and problem solve, you might end up being an art director, a creative director, where you lead teams in trying to solve these design things. So It's kind of abstract because there's such a broad range of approaches you can take. But I think it's really important to understand tools and how to practice design. And if you go to a school, you should absolutely come out of school with those skills. And if you don't, you should probably look at a different program, would be my consideration.
True. I think we are done with the questions for graphic design. Yeah.
Okay.
Sanjukta,
Yes.
yeah.
I think, yeah, there are no more questions for graphic design. So maybe we can move ahead with our next speaker then.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. It was
thank
really
you.
lovely to have you and a great presentation. I'm sure the students who are watching it on Facebook Live will be, getting an insight in detail. And if we receive any questions later on related to your presentation or any doubts for graphic design, we will surely forward those to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'll send you that PDF so my information's there if anyone does want to reach out. So I hope you guys have a great day of presentations and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Moyu. I guess she is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's on mute, so.
Hey, Zarna, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
Yeah, let me switch this to computer, okay? I'm on my phone right now. I'll leave
Sure.
and I'll rejoin, okay?
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Okay, yeah.
I hope all the students are enjoying. Now we are going to have presentation on graphic furniture design. We just completed graphic design. And lastly, we will take up landscape architecture.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much different from completely only the design fields to the architecture back again. I hope, Manmeet, you are also enjoying our presentations.
Yes, ma'am, I'm really enjoying. It's really a wonderful opportunity to be part of this. Thank you. Thank you so much to the entire team.
Thank you so much to you for coming up, and it's great to have speakers like you all, because it's going to be really helpful to the students, actually, experienced ones and also the young. It's not something like we are calling someone like who has experience of so many years, and because obviously when someone comes with a great experience, a long one, they are obviously having a different time period itself within them, and that experience is going to be very different from the ones who are actually thinking to pursue masters now. Time has so much changed, generation is changed, so that's why we try every time for all the courses to bring someone who is students can feel that okay, they are like, they can what would I say, the correct word should be correlate
They can connect with the same age.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely true, ma'am.
I think Moyu has joined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Moyu.
Hi, Zarna. Hi, girls. I see you girls.
Yeah, there are girls and girls today. It's
awesome. That's perfect. I love it. How are you? You look great.
Yeah, you look great too. Where are the two buddies?
Thank you. get ready. It's getting my coffee ready.
Oh, great.
Evening to you guys. Good morning to myself.
Yeah, it's a good morning to you and it's a good evening to us.
Yeah. How's everything going there?
Going great, going superb. And I can see that your work is going so fabulous. You have so nice products coming up. I just
Thank you.
Let me introduce you to my colleagues. That's Sanjukta Das and Mitali Nalla.
Hi.
So Sanjukta is going to introduce you and then you can carry on with your presentation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, welcome Moyu, and thank you so much for being a part of this webinar today. Students, we will be moving ahead with our second session. That is our webinar by guest speaker Moyu Zhang on furniture design. So about her, she is an internationally collected and awarded artist, as well as the founder of Moyu Zhang Studios in Washington, D.C. metro area. She has painstakingly hand tools wood to create sculptures that are minimal, emotional, and modernly refined. All her pieces aspire to capture an elusive beauty that combines the poetic and the mysterious with a feeling of serenity and purity. Born in China, educated and practiced in the United States of Finland, Ms. Zhang has worked professionally as an architect, designer, and craftsperson. Moyu was an awarded-winning architect before she decided to make the things she was designing with her own hands in 2012. Moyu enrolled in the Rochester Institute of Technology to learn woodworking and furniture design. She founded Moyu Zhang Studio after winning her first niche award in 2013. In 2018, Moyu moved her studio to Washington, D.C., where she devotes all her time to sculpting. Moyu received her MFA from the School of American Crafts at RIT and her BArch from SCU. Thank you, Moyu, for being a part of this webinar today. And now I hand over the session to you and request to start with the session. Over to you, Moyu.
Thank you for having me. Okay, so I'll share my screen to get started.
Sure.
Could everybody see it well?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Cool. Okay, I'll thank you for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. So I'll just get started of my experience at RIT Furniture Design. Before you before you go to the next step, you need to think, what do you really want to learn? Like me, it's like many of you guys, I was trained as an architect. I've been design like for 10 years before I made this move. So I want to make sure for me, like I want to have this hands-on experience. I want to learn more about the material I'm going to use. So I want to choose a program that is focused on this part of the instead of just design, because like for people who has a long design experience, you want to gain this hands-on experience, because that is, for me, like that is part of the design process. So that's why I choose this RIT, this Rochester Institute of Technology, because they have a school of American craft. That's the oldest craft school in the US, and it was recognized as a leader in the field of arts and craft. So choosing this woodworking and furniture design program, that's because it's the oldest and the most prestigious program of its kind in the United States. So I think it's a choice for me, but for you guys, like if you want to go into the furniture design, you need to think about it. What do you want to focus on? Because some school is more focused on design, some school is more focused on the making experience, and some school may focus more on the concept and this connection with this whole social thing. So you're gonna do your research and decide your path. In this program, I'm a firm believer that knowing the material and how to work with it makes you a better designer, especially in wood. For my experience as an architect, I feel like at least in China, in Finland, in a lot of places, architect is still most focused on designing, but have very limited experience on making. That's why I choose this to gain the hands-on experience. You can see this is a picture of the bench room at RIT Furniture Design. This is most of the exciting things happen. So this program is focused a lot on technique, but as a whole, this school has a very strong design background. You have so many other classes you can choose if you want to learn more about design as well. So this is a picture of the critique scene at the RIT. You know, critique is a very important part of the whole program. Like every time when everybody finish the whole project and we gather together, we talk about your process, your challenges, and you get advice from other people. Also, you get a lot of critical thinking from other people's perspective. It's not easy. Critique is hard. You're gonna be ready to listen to a lot of things you don't want to listen, but it's very rewarding. Now I'll go over some of the works I did when I was at RIT Furniture Design, so you can get a feel about what it's about. This is the first piece I did as a furniture designer, or say furniture maker. For this project, the assignment is to use 3 different types of joineries. This is a little deep into technique. They require us to use 3 different types of joineries. One is a cross lap, another one is half lap, and another one is bridal. Yeah, if anybody interested, we can talk more about that later. But in here, like I want to mention, the furniture design I'm doing is called studio furniture. A lot of people may thinking as a furniture designer, traditional thinking is you design something and you give your design to other manufacturer to do the mass production. That is one way. But to be honest, in this industry, like you thought there are a lot of big brands there, like Herman Miller and Knowles. You thought they may hire an in-house designer, but the truth is they do not have any position for in-house designer. They keep producing this iconic middle century style. They don't need a designer. They don't have an in-house designer to design new things. They do have in-house engineer, but that's not designer. So for what I'm doing, like I do design and I make it by myself. So it's a all integrated process. This thing, the furniture I do is called studio furniture. Studio furniture is actually a leading form in the traditional media. The term studio furniture refers to work made one piece at a time or in a small production runs by artists and small teams of artisans for functional reasons as well artistic ones. You can see the detail of those joineries. This is a work called Seating for Two. The assignment is to create a bench for 2 people to sit and interact. If you can see other people's project, like one assignment, everybody's work is very, very different from each other. This I made for 2 people to sit on the higher stool and put your feet on the lower one. and you can have an interaction face to face, or can be a mother and a kid, or can be two friends. So it started from assignment, but it's all about your expression and all about your interpretation. Some research on some detail treatment, some surface treatment, some texture. This is called library stairs, but after it's been done, and a lot of people consider it as a sculpture. This technique is called bending lamination. You can seldom see the can seldom see the wood expressed as such a fluent form. This is made from a lot of very thin pieces of ash veneer, and we glue them together and force them onto a form to create this shape. It's very durable. It can stand up. It can support a 200-pound people to stay up there. It's called library stairs. It's a library stair. You step on it and to reach the book in the upper level of the cases. So wood is this material, can do much more than I expected originally. This is called, this work is unfolded paper tray. This is also made from wood. It's a bleached maple. This shape is covered on the CNC machine. CNC machine is a computer numerous router. Like you design this whole thing on computer. I use Rhino to design this, and there's another software called Mastercam. I use that software to transform this Rhino file into the CNC router, into the CNC machine, and the machine cover all those shapes for you. This is the same, but just so you know, wood is a material. There is no shortcut. After this get off the CNC machine, it still have a lot of sanding, hours of sanding, and a lot of detail treatment. This is called a puzzle reliquary. The project is to ask us to make a reliquary to store the things you cherish. So I made this, again, like everybody, same question, but everybody solve it differently. I made this puzzle reliquary, and they are all made from teeny tiny drawers, and you can decide the positive part and negative part, how to put them together, what composition do you like. All those small drawers, you can put the things you cherish in it, like a ring or a lighter, anything you like in it. This, I call this Inception serving bowl. They are my explorations about this CNC machine, trying to create more patterns and trying to play around to see what it's gonna become. So, you know, the many programs those days, like they focus on, they provide enough knowledge for traditional technology, traditional woodworking technology, but also like not ignore the new development in the digital world, because they really bring something new to this old field. This is a weaving tray made from maple. It is also covered on the CNC machine. This is a walnut tray. This is ebonized cherry. This is my exploration of color and texture and the preparation for my thesis exhibition. This is first piece of my thesis. My thesis name is Dance in Silence. It's a whole series of work, focus on the contrast, the purity in the concept and the richness in the color and form. This is an illuminating sculpture. Those you can see inside, there are many little thin pieces of wood color. I paint them into different colors, and there are lights coming through the spaces between them, trying to create a visually endless feeling. Some details of this work. This is just number 2, the second piece of my thesis. I use turning. There is this technique called wood turning. Most of those colorful pieces are made on a lathe. So this is a very large bench. Okay, so this body of work is my first solo exhibition after graduation. So you can see, even though I'm more restrained about color, but you still can see this work is developed from the thesis work. So you can see those forms still, they are evolving. You can see some growth from there to here. So for the thesis exhibition, it's a very important one, because a lot of people's career, their whole career, about like 10 years or 20 years, it's an elaboration, it's a more exploration started from their thesis. This is also 9 days in between the 12 pieces of my first solo exhibition after graduation. So I think thinking about being an artist or being a furniture designer, there's one thing you need to really think about it. You know, I name this fantasy and reality. You know, a lot of people thinking about an artist's life, in the movie, they portray a very glamorous, many of them, but yeah, I have to say, like, part of your job is you go to the galleries and have the fancy food at the reception, and have flowers in your hands, and have great music, have wine, and dressed up, and to socialize with the collectors and with the sponsors. That is part of your life, because your job is to introduce, part of your job is to introduce your work to the world. So that's partly true. But the thing is, you know, sometimes you have to go out to take the pictures for the magazines when you are interviewed, and and a lot of things looks fancy, but you need to really think about it. If those things are you comfortable doing them, or you just is what you you're really interested. So, but one thing I want to mention, like, as a furniture maker, furniture making is a very time-consuming and physically demanding work. So no matter how fancy it looks like, for me, I think 95% of time I spend in my studio. Not look fancy, look like this, with a headphone on my head, with the goggles, and with the respirators. You know, with this whole COVID thing, you see the first responders, they have all the marks on their face because they are wearing respirators all day long. You know, that is not something new for woodworker. Like, if you choose this as a career, like, you have to have the good protection everywhere. So every day when I finish my work, I have all the marks on my face. And when I go to school bus to pick up my son, the other parents thinking, oh my goodness, is this something, what is this mark? I hope there's not like domestic violence or something. I have to explain to them. So it's a very hard work. It's a very hardworking thing, hardworking career. Most of the time I'm like this, I look like this, and I have all the dust on my hair. I have to, like, if you, because, you know, I have a, you being an artist is not everything, right? You have a life and you have your family. You have a lot of other duties to do. So I try to squeeze more time to do my work. So, and I have to get out of the studio to do other duties. So sometimes I take multiple showers a day just to be able to function in different places. This is work on a lathe. So basically everything related to woodworking is very noisy. So it's very noisy and it's very dusty. So you see some videos, you think turning is very romantic, very meditation thing. It is, that's true, but you need to be aware in the machine room it's always loud. It's not as peaceful as it looks. So all those things, I'm not trying to like scare you away from this career, but this is something you really need to seriously take into consideration. For me, I just like this way too much. So even though I don't really like wearing all the protections, even though I don't like loud noises, but I'll just make a peace with that part and keep doing and enjoying what I really love. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. And I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Moyu. Well, that was really very interesting, and really, I saw your works, and it's really very wonderful. And I think the participants over here, they must have got a very great ideas about what furniture design can be, and there are a lot of options even after architecture, right? And really, like your works are really very wonderful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I'm sure after your work now, many people will be thinking, I will also do furniture design just like Zhang.
Yes. I think you also showed how glamorous it can be, and also background in reality, how much like hard work you need to put on, right?
Yeah, well, I think those are the questions very important to know before you make the decision, you know.
Yeah, it's a tough decision to be there in the mess and produce something which is very beautiful. it takes a lot of time to do all that things. I remember my days. I could see the studio.
Yeah, right. Good memories or bad memories.
Yeah, it's a mixed one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really lovely to see Rich and do with you. I really miss those days. That was fun. But yes, it is for sure a very hard work. And I agree. It is the same thing. Like you still continue doing that, and I skip. Now I just give design to someone. You make it. I'm not anymore into that making.
You're a good designer still.
Yeah, I'm still a designer. You are with the studio, and you have something, you know, that passion which you carried with you.
Yes,
I would like to tell everyone my experience with Moyu. She had a kid that time, such a small kid, and she could manage everything. Like that was so fabulous. I used to so much like appreciate her and just look like, how do you do? How can you do so many things all together? But
that's
it's really great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really great.
Yeah, I think we do have questions. Yeah.
No, we have few.
Yeah.
There is one that how much time is saved working with CNC machine as compared to working manually with traditional carpentry tools while crafting these pieces of art and furniture.
So for the CNC machine, it does speed up things. So like say if you want to make 100 trays, I definitely would recommend you 100 trays with the same design. I definitely would recommend you to use a CNC machine to mass product it. But for like say if you going to like make one or two, probably your hand carving would be faster than using CNC machine, because for a CNC machine, you still need to spend quite amount of time on the computer and quite amount of time adjust everything, because you need to do an experiment before you start to cut your real pieces. There are a lot of details you need to make sure they are correct. And also for the tray, I showed you there are two sides. Even flipping the tray the backside down, you need to do a very accurate calculation to make sure all the cuttings happen at exactly the position you want. So for the CNC machine, it's really good for the mass production. Like say if you have 100 chairs to do, you can cut all the legs on a CNC machine. That's definitely gonna speed up your process. But one thing for CNC machine I don't really like is because the CNC machine did all the fun part, all the creation. So for me, like making is part of the design. So when I hand the tools, all those wood, I may have better design ideas. I may have ideas how to revise this design a little bit to make it more interesting. But on the CNC machine, it's just like my old job as an architect. You design first, and you get it done, you get it produced, and you may there at the starting point, you may go back to look at the piece cut out from CNC. You may want to adjust it, but this for me, this create a little bit of distance instead of when I using my hand. You know, like when as architects we make drawings on the computer all the time, but you can feel the difference when you do sketch with your hands. This connection between your hand and your mind is different. Like human being, we automatically process everything, but when you use computer, when you use machines, we have a distance. We got separation from our thoughts. Our hand are not integrated system anymore. So yeah, that's my perspective about this.
Such a beautiful explanation, Moyu. I would say that because the moment you discussed with an example of sketching and using the computer, it's so true. Like, because your ideas, they are flowing continuously. If you're working on computer, it surely makes a distance, to, bring that creativity completely there. But while sketching, we can easily do. And I would be with you because of the experiences we had together also, that, it was so much fun to do it. And while we are doing it, we used to think, okay, no, it's not exactly what the design.
Yeah, exactly.
But, we can do something like this, and we immediately change it. So that won't be possible if we are using CNC machine, because, once the design is done, it's done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Another thing is, another question the student is asking that how to explore different materials to understand your comfort or liking. I think the question is something, like we had, different materials. We were into woodworking, there was ceramic, glass, and also the question is something that how we decide that we will be comfortable with this material only,
Yeah, that's a good question. But for this, I think the only way you can solve this is to try different materials. In many places around the world, there are this like ceramic studios. Maybe you take 1 or 2 classes, or maybe just walk in there to ask, maybe I can volunteer some of my time, and you can teach me trying to do something like throwing or hand building. For me, in RIT furniture design, in the School of American Craft, there are so many different mediums, like wood and furniture design is our specialty. And we also, our next door is the ceramic studio. They make ceramic sculpture. Yeah, and to the end of the hallway, there is a glass studio. So you can blow glasses, you can blow those big glass bubbles and create a lot of things. And also they have a metal studios. You can make jewelries there. You have this you have this opportunity to try different materials, and also you can choose elective class during school time. So you can, like, I think most of the students in the School of American Craft, they all choose others. I tried metal because I also like jewelry design, and tried ceramic. I love ceramic. For me, like, to be honest, I never do ceramic before I go to this program, and I took 3 ceramic elective classes. If I know ceramic before, I definitely gonna choose ceramic, to be honest. So for you, like before you decide which material do you want to use, the only thing I can recommend is to try different ways. Try those different materials. It doesn't has to be a very expensive thing to do, because there are also have this local jewelry shops. Local jewelry shops, they make things, they handmade a lot of metal stuff, and you can like go there to just to volunteer your time and help them to do something, because most of the time, most of the places they recommend, they like volunteers. So
yeah, true.
yeah.
They love the volunteers to be there. And I think even the workshops would help. There are many workshops going on nowadays. Nowadays, actually, things are online, so it's a bit difficult to do all that. But yeah, once the things settle down with this COVID situation, I guess the workshops and everything will start again, and that will be the best place to know yourself and understand which material is your liking and your choice. True. Nice. That's really nice. So, can you check it out if we have any more questions?
We'll just check it out.
Okay. There is one. How to just start your furniture? I guess someone is asking how your furniture design journey started. Like what to do when we want to become furniture designer. She or he, I don't know, is an architect already. So.
Okay, for me, like I'm not necessarily want to do furniture design. I just want to, if I can, I want to build my architecture myself. But that seems not something can really happen, because that's a teamwork. So for me, it's important to make the things I design with my own hands. So it's more doable thing is to do furniture. It's closer to like create your own architecture. If I can, I want to build my house all myself. I just really enjoy this hands-on experience. Only designing will not satisfy me. I just have to do a lot of hands-on things to make sure my designs really happen the way I really want them. So like the furniture design is the closest thing I can find to do that. And the studio furniture I'm doing is it's a big difference from designing. Is I created the things I really want and I sell them. So it's not, the big difference is it's not design anymore, because in the end, the design and also like our architecture is, in the end, is still a service, right? In the end, you need to solve problem for your clients. It's not your own field for art creation. You have responsibilities to your clients. For me, like doing this studio furniture, I design it, I make it, I'm completely in control of this whole process. It's my self-expression. And then I put it out to the world, only to looking for the people who have the same vibe, who really want to purchase this. So I think that's a big difference, like between the design and the making, also between the architect, designer versus the artist. So for me, furniture design, this studio furniture design is the closest thing to express my own perspective regarding this art and design. So that's the path I chose. That's why I chose this. I don't know.
It has been what would you rate? Like it's been a difficult process to run your own studio, or it was okay? I'm sure it was not easy, so I'm not asking that. But what do you think? Like, was it difficult to set up your own space for studio? And
yes, it is. It is hard. It is hard because, especially when you have a lot of other things to consider. But you know what? The one good thing about this is you can start small.
Yeah.
you can start from a bench, just one bench with some hand tools. It doesn't require a lot of space. It doesn't require a lot of money. You can start make things. You know, you can start, if you don't have a lot of wood, you can start to make wood jewelries, like they call that like a statement jewelries. You can do things like very small, doesn't require a lot of material and a lot of time, but it still can express your artistic views and put those work out. When there are people start to appreciate this work, they would want more from you. And this is how can you get your career started rolling. Like also each year before this COVID thing, each year I do 2 or 3 exhibitions. So during these exhibitions, you get a world to see our work. You know, and then you know, sometimes you never need everybody to like your work. You just need a few people who like your work and willing to purchase your work. It's important to get your work out, and those days it's not that hard because we have social media. People very far from you it's possible to see our work, right?
True,
So
true.
always start small and go try to control your spend, your cost, because any career as an artist will not be easy, and there's no guarantee. You know, even though in this show you probably sold all of your stuff, but next show maybe you just chose the wrong place to just have a different audience, and probably nothing sold out. It's possible, and be prepared. So you're trying to keep your costs low and trying to focus on the small things. Let it roll. When you get more and more experience in here, and you can see the feedback from your audience, so you can start to move on, choose your directions. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. So great, Moyu. It's amazing. I can see one more question.
Yep, yeah, we have one more question.
Yeah. Can you suggest me to what kind of furniture course I should enroll for my future study plan? Amni, for that we can take up to with you in personal. I'm sure that's just it's a general one, and it's something which has to do with the communication with you first. So we will email you up, Amni. Can you just drop in your email address? Thank you. Thanks, Moyu, to be here. It's so great to have you. It was really
Thank you for having me. So good to see your face. So
yeah. It's really great. I mean, I see my old friends do this.
yeah. Hope to see you in person sometime.
Yeah,
Okay.
whenever I'm planning. Yeah, no, Washington is too close from Texas. I will surely drop in for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
If you plan for India someday, just call me up, okay?
Sure. Yeah. I think this whole COVID thing just get everything postponed.
Yeah.
I hope it get passed as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys are healthy and well.
Yeah, I'm glad for that to you too. Your kids are fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Enjoy. Thank you so much, Moyu.
You're so welcome. Have a
you.
wonderful evening, guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye. Yeah. Yes, I think that was really wonderful session with Moyu showing us one of the very wonderful projects and giving us insights on furniture design. Thank you to her once again. So moving ahead with our third session, that is giving insights on landscape design, we have with us another guest expert speaker, architect Manmeet Kaur. Hello, Manmeet.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. Yeah. To start with, I'll just introduce architect Manmeet to every one of you. Architect Manmeet Kaur is from a region called Land of Five Rivers, Punjab. She has completed her bachelor's in architecture from Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar in 2016. And thereafter, she worked for 2 years as assistant architect in Ludhiana with Avinash Khosla and Associates. where she got an opportunity to work on different projects of architectural projects, including bungalows, airports, residences, clubhouses, restaurants, park designs, etc. She has also worked with mass architects where she dealt with projects involved in interior designs. She was very much fascinated towards landscape studies since her college days, and this which motivated her to pursue various online courses from University of British Columbia, Canada, Netherlands, and Universitat Politecnica di Valencia, Italy. Thereafter, she cleared GATE exam and got an opportunity to pursue her master's from School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal. She has also presented a research paper in 7th National Seminar on Architecture for Masses organized by Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Currently, she is working as assistant professor in DIT University, Dehradun. Over to you. We are really thankful to have you here, Manmeet, today. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thanks for such a lovely introduction.
Yes, thank you. So now I hand over the session to you and you can begin your session. Over to you, Manmeet.
Yes. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible. Yeah.
Okay. So today I am going to discuss about a road to landscape architecture. So
One
many.
minute, Manmeet. Sorry to interrupt. I think you can do it in slideshow. That will be better.
Yeah, I have already. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
fine. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So today I'll be discussing on road to landscape architecture. So first of all, starting with the definition given by American Society of Landscape Architects, landscape architecture involves the planning, design, management, and nurturing of the built and the natural environments. With their unique skill set, landscape architects work not only to improve human health, human and environmental health, but also the health of the flora and fauna and the other species which exist on Earth. And this is such a dynamic field that it keeps on changing. So if you design something today and then if you watch it after a few years, it will show some change. So this is the only I would say this is the only branch in architecture which is so dynamic in nature and so like it's so human conscious and human health related profession. Then we often face this misconception that the landscape architecture is the study which is only focused on plants and animals and some landscape elements which we see across in various gardens, but it is actually that is just the beginning. There is a lot more into this profession. So we have different domains of knowledge in landscape architecture. So we have landscape planning, design and management. We have protected areas management, protected areas as in reserved forest. We have lakes, we have biodiversity hotspots, we have community reserve areas. So all those projects, they also come under the purview of landscape architecture. So we have cultural and historic landscapes. For example, we have landscapes of Braj, we have the Braj, which is the region near Mathura. So we have parks and gardens, we have built environments, we have infrastructure, we have landscape assessment, we have site analysis and planning. Then we also have landscape design and implementation, which is followed after a careful analysis of all the natural layers, of all the social layers, of all the cultural layers. And then we also have contract administration. We have a very good scope of this landscape architecture in research and teaching. And we also learn project management as well. Then being new to this profession, those students who aim to pursue a career in landscape architecture, it is advised that they just read at least one of these books. So you can go, there are PDFs available on internet for these books. So you have Design with Nature by Ian McHarg. You have Landscape Architecture in India, a Reader by Mohammad Shahid. Muhammad Shair is the father of landscape architecture in India. And then you have landscape architecture research, inquiry, strategy design by Ellen Deming and Simon Seffield. Then we have another book, The Landscape of Man, Shaping the Environment from Prehistory to the Present Day by Jeffrey Jellicoe and Susan Jellicoe. Then there is a very beautiful book, Landscape Pattern, Perception and Processes by Simon Bell. So these are the must-read books. So anybody who is aspiring to go into this profession should read at least one of these two. Then what do landscape architects do? So there are so many similarities between what an architect does and what a landscape architect does. So they meet with the clients, they meet with engineers, building architects to understand the requirements of the project. Then they prepare site plans, specifications and cost estimates as we do in architectural projects. So similarly, we prepare these things for landscape architecture projects as well. Then we coordinate the arrangement of existing and proposed land features and structures. So land features, that is basically your terrain, your slope studies, then you have soil typology. So these all come under the land features. So then we also prepare graphic representations of plans using computer aided design and drafting softwares. So we select appropriate landscaping materials. Now landscaping materials, it's a very broader term. So it includes your light fixtures, it includes your planting material. Planting material is your small plants, shrubs, herbs, grasses, then trees. Then you have another landscaping elements. For example, you have gazebos, you have pavers, then you have your trellis, arbors, topiaries. So these are the terms which are very common in this landscape. And these are the terms which we often use um, in almost all the projects. So that is why they are often called as landscaping materials. So then we also analyze reports on land conditions such as drainage and energy use. So we have this inspection for landscape projects to ensure that whatever has been issued by landscape architect is actually being executed on the ground. Then they also seek new work through presentations and marketings and especially when there are new government projects. For example, these days we have lots of projects which are coming up in smart cities, under smart cities, and that is across India. And then we have so many other regional level projects as well. So landscape architects often prepare presentations and they show up their work to get those good projects. Then there are a number of career opportunities in landscape architecture. Initially, it's a bit hard, but as you progress, as you get experience, it offers you a variety of opportunities. It offers you illustrious careers. So the typical employers for landscape architects include construction industry. So you work with architects as consultants and contractors. Then you also work with local authorities. You have private architectural firms, landscape architectural firms. I have also mentioned few of them at the end of the presentation for your reference. So then you have public bodies. For example, you have Delhi Development Authority, and then you have different water companies which also look up into hiring landscape architects. And many companies like Tata and all, they recruit landscape architects on a regular basis. So it's a new field in India, but it is having a very good future. So then we have different types of projects which are carried under landscape architecture. So many students only feel that it's all about gardens and parks. There is nothing more to it, but actually that is just the beginning. So you have ecotourism and wellness tourism proposals. So we have many natural surroundings, natural contexts in different states in India. And we have many proposals for ecotourism, and we have many proposals for wellness tourism. So it comes under the purview of landscape architecture. Then you have wetlands and wildlife conservation. So it is not only the forest people who work on these kinds of projects, it is we also who work in these kinds of projects. We have a design part, we have the analytical part, and those people, they have hold on the floral and the faunal part. So that is the difference we have with the people of the similar fields. So then you have resorts and the nature trails. You have healing gardens and community parks. So healing gardens, as in, for example, there is one small garden with a clinic attached to Bhopal gas tragedy victims. So that is Sambhavna. So it's a very nice garden. So they have used a lot of herbs. They have used a lot of things that heal people psychologically. So we have these kinds of healing gardens in old age homes. We have healing gardens in rehabilitation centers. So we have these healing gardens in community areas, community parks. So this is this is also in our control. So we can reach the larger public with our work, and that is the beauty of this profession. Then we have floodplain restoration and management, we have river edge development, we have streetscapes, and we have restoration of abandoned quarries. So we can actually give life to very dead sites that I'll be showcasing through one of the projects also. So I would like to now tell you about some projects which have been done by me and some projects which have been done by famous Indian landscape architects. So starting with architect Muhammad Shahid, so he worked on the landscape of the Sundar Nursery. So it was initiated by Aga Khan Trust for Culture, and they commenced conservation and landscape works at Sundar Nursery to create a 90-acre city park with distinct heritage, ecological and nursery zones and required facilities. So this architect, he designed so many different gardens, both informal and formal, around this central spine. So in the image which you see in the bottom, the second image which you see, so it is actually that spine, the spine with the water. So he has given so many beautiful landscape elements, to create a mix of formal and informal space, open space. You see this? So he has used landscape elements from traditional gardens. So in the first image, which you see on the right hand side, this is a very beautiful element which is often known as chadar. So you will find this in many Mughal gardens and Persian gardens. So when water flows over this element, the sound it creates and the appearance it gives, that itself is a very beautiful experience to the visitor. So that is the beauty. So he has used such elements all over the site, all over the area, or all over this garden. So he has used a mix of very manicured and very formal gardens and very informal and organic gardens to make it ecologically rich, to make it a place where people can come, they can sit, they can introspect, they can celebrate their occasions, they can just cherish the beauty around. So that was what was given by him in this project. Coming to the next project, which is designed by architect Prabhakar Bhagwat and Aniket Bhagwat. So they are also very renowned architects, and they have been working in this field since so many years. So this is a very beautiful example, which was once a barren land. So if you see this image, so you see 5 images. You see the first image, you see the last image, and see the transition. So it is now a protected forest, which is 70 hectares in area, but it was once a barren basalt quarry, right? So it is close to Vadodara in Gujarat, and with optimum amount of intervention, the site has rapidly undergone various stages of succession. So it is an effort of 8 long years, which is a result of in-depth knowledge and a curated process that ultimately led to the rejuvenation of land and the creation of multiple micro ecosystems. So the processes involved improving the quality of soil, allowing local species of grasses and trees to grow to slowly regain control. And that was what was the part of landscape design proposal. So it is not always that we give different elements, we make gardens. It is not always that. It is something very different. You are working on the soil, you are working on creating micro habitats. So you are creating an ecosystem which would attract different species. That is also our role. So you can yourself see that it is actually a transformation from a dead and ugly site to a wonderful, beautiful, protected area. And and the technique used in this particular project was very simple. The topsoil was layered on the rock. So this topsoil became mulch and created the microenvironments necessary for the growth of grasses, native shrubs and trees. And to fill the water in this, nearby streams were diverted into it. So you see, everything was there on the site, but it was so deteriorated, it was so spoiled by human intervention. But with the careful study, with the careful analysis of that area, it was completely transformed into something very beautiful, something very meaningful. So if you see this before and after images. It's really unbelievable and it's very magical to see. So we have a scope. So whatever sites, whatever mining sites we have in India, which are completely deteriorated, they can be transformed into such beautiful forests, such beautiful ecological rich areas. So that is the power which landscape architects possess. So this is such a satisfying profession. Then coming to the third project, which is a resort. So this is a resort in Chikmagalur in Karnataka. So this has been designed by architect Shri Ganesh Rajendra and architect Aparna Rao. So they are very renowned architects in Bangalore, Ficus Landscape Architects. So I have been to this site and I have worked with them. It is really very beautiful and experiential space. So it is a 5-acre site which was a part of the coffee estate, and they have used every small thing with such a beauty that you will experience, you will yourself experience. Even if you walk on the pathway, even if you sit there, even if you look up in the sky, even if you look down in the sky, the play of the shadow, the play of the layering of the plants. So you see shrubs in front, you see small trees at the back, and then the tall trees at the backdrop. That is a very sharp observation which only landscape architects do. Like they have this thing, so they have a different eye, they have a different perspective. So they have used such small things which has actually made very experiential. They have made this space very extremely experiential, and it's worth going and spending time there. Then coming to the another project which is done by Ficus Landscape Architects, is Indian Institute of Human Settlements. So this is a campus having mixed land use. So they are comprising of academic research and residential facilities. So the site occupies a predominantly westerly slope with gentle and rolling gradients, as you can see in the site sections in the in the right hand side. So in the site context, in the north side is bounded by a reserve forest with prominent stands of eucalyptus with many native trees. On each side is a large residential development which is under construction. The western side forms a riparian edge for a seasonal stream linking Ramsagar and Biman Kuppe tanks, which forms part of the traditional water management system. So they have very carefully used, they have respected whatever was existing on site. They have designed everything as per the existing conditions so that there is minimum intervention. So the south edge of the site has private land holdings and the site is savanna type. So savanna is basically your dry grasslands with small trees and shrubs. So the site is rich in savanna type of vegetation. So there is a wide range of studies which was conducted in this project. Different maps were prepared. So these three maps, these are the slope map, relief map, hydrology map. So they tell us about the existing site conditions, the existing terrain, that where do we need to intervene, and which areas need intervention, which are high potential areas and which are low potential areas, where are the issues. So that is why we usually carry these analysis for almost all the projects. If you see, we have this natural layer analysis for almost all the projects. Then different experts worked with IIHS as project baseline studies. So the crits which we got from different experts, they were incorporated into the landscape design proposal, site management and site remediation works. Then another set of maps were generated. So physiographic features like your slopes, valleys, plateaus, riparian fringes, they were also identified very carefully. There were number of visits, and most of the work has been done by being on site. So then the second one was identification of fragments and patches. So it is always preferable to connect these fragments and patches. So because these fragments and patches of green spaces, they, when combined, they give a more species richness. So that is why it is always preferred to connect them. So then in the third one, we have this linkages between blue, green, that is your water bodies and green spaces. So then the fourth one is your so fourth one is the resultant microhabitats. So after overlapping all these three layers, so the microhabitats or the potential area for microhabitats were identified, and then proposal was prepared accordingly. So this is the careful analysis which is very much required to give an appropriate design proposal. So now in this, after carrying out this analysis, so we overlapped all the three layers: agroecological, environmental, and socio-cultural, and then came up with this solution. So corridors were identified, areas of convergences were identified, then clusters, then courtyards, congregations, they all came as a result of the analysis which was carried. So if you see on the right hand side, so this is the final product. So there is a logic, there is a complete process, complete analysis which arrives at this design. So you see, we have different we have different elements. We have arrival plaza, we have play courts, we have food forest, then there are dike zones, and there are so many other things. So they all came up with the careful analysis of all the components. Then coming to the next project, which is road landscapes. So this is one of my favorite projects. So this was the project in which you will find all the different approaches which which projects of different nature should have. So this is the stretch, 3 kilometers long stretch, which was chosen. So it has different types of land uses. It has residential land use, it has recreational, it has commercial, it has historical and encroached zones also. So these five elevations which you see below the map, so they are depicting different land uses. So if you see the second one, it has a different kind of land use. And if you see the third one, it has such a thick vegetation. So it's a kind of recreational land use. So the first one which you see a lake. So the lake, so Bhopal has two main lakes, upper lake and the lower lake. So this is the site from the Bhopal. So if you see, if you stand here and you look at the lake, it's a wonderful experience. So which is there all throughout the stretch. So this is the collector road for the city of Bhopal. So it gives the visitor the first glimpse of the city from its lake edge onwards. The scenic route sits between the upper lake and the lower lake on some stretches, and over just the upper lake at others. So the right of way for the entire stretch is 30 meters, and it is divided into 5 zones based on different land use. The first one being a residential land use. So this is your stretch A, which is a residential land use. So which is from Kohe Fiza to Masjid. So these are the famous places which are spotted along this stretch. So then you have the second one is an encroached zone, which people have forcibly encroached, but which is not supposed to be there. That is from Masjid to a selfie park. Then there is the third stretch, stretch C, which is a stretch with a very dense vegetation. So it is ecologically rich stretch. Then this is the another stretch, stretch D, which is a recreational zone and historical zone. It has a very old mahal, old palace built up, which is commonly called as the Gohar Mahal, and it also has one historical park, which is Kamla Park. So this stretch, it is both recreational and historical. Then the fifth one, which you see on the right hand side, stretch E, that is the stretch from Kamla Park Junction to BRTS corridor. So it is a commercial stretch. So commercial stretch, so it has many masjids. It has small green pockets where people usually come, sit and look and enjoy the beauty around. And it has some shops also. So it is more of commercial in nature. So now in this particular kind of project, if you see, so there were certain issues in each of these stretch which were identified. So some of them were areas of conflicts where the traffic and the people and the pedestrians often conflicted with each other. Then there were urban heat islands also in the historical stretch. If you see this historical stretch, stretch D, there is so much of the built fabric and there is so less of the vegetation. So due to which there was so much of heat islands, there was so much of heat. This was very uncomfortable zone. And then there were lack of adequate buffers. So these were some issues which were there in almost all these stretches. Then after identifying these issues for each of these stretch, there were different proposals for each stretch. So the proposals included the provision of adequate buffers in terms of vegetation, which could be noise control barriers, which could be visual barriers. And then there were provisions for identification of vantage points. So vantage points to enhance user experience. So if there is such a beautiful lake around and there is such a beautiful vegetation around, people would love to stand or sit there and sit there for some time from the monotonous city life and enjoy the beauty around. So those points, those junctions were identified in the proposal. And then all these green pockets, they were proposed to be developed. So there was a proposal for giving in gazebos, giving in sit outs, giving in some introspecting spaces. So that was the approach in this particular kind of project. So if you see in all these 5 projects which we have discussed, so that is the approach is the main thing. So you are approaching a city park with a different perspective. You are approaching a degraded stone quarry with a different perspective. Then you are approaching a streetscape or a road landscape with a different perspective. So that is the beauty. The approach is the main thing in arriving at final landscape design solution. So that was about all these were the glimpses of some of the projects. And now coming to the list of colleges, I hope this helps you. So there are so many, but they are the ones which are most prestigious. So you have SPS, which have degrees, 2-year degree program in landscape. Then you have CEPT, you have BNCA Pune, you have Amity University, you have Ganga Institute of Architecture and Town Planning. And this is also a very illustrious field in abroad. So you have University of California, Berkeley, you have University of Southern California, University of Pennsylvania, University of British Columbia, University of Melbourne, Sheffield, and Purdue University. So it's a very, very illustrious profession. So this is the list of firms, landscape architectural firms in India. So you can go through their websites and dive more into the projects, different projects which are being carried out. And there is really very good work going on in different parts of our country in this field. Many of us or many of the students don't have any idea about it, but it is going. It is actually rising. So I would suggest that those who are interested should go and check the projects which have been carried out. That's all from my end. I would love to have some questions.
Well, thank you, Manmeet. I think that was really, again, wonderful, giving us insights. Like before that, we had insights on design field in furniture and graphic design. Now at a very different field, that is landscape design, where I think you have shown like how architects can contribute to to have beautiful environment, beautiful surrounding among us, and being a landscape architect. So I think we'll see if few questions are there.
Manmeet, why
Yes,
after architecture you decided to go for landscape? You can
ma'am.
stop sharing, Manmeet. That's fine.
So it was my third year when I was fascinated into this field. So we have this subject landscape design in our third year. So our professor took us to the entire round for the entire university, and he introduced so many different plants and he introduced so many different landscape elements, and that was the beginning. That day the seed was sown. So that inspired me to look more into it, and slowly I started exploring about it. I started looking for different works, and then when I was working after my bachelor's for 2 years, I also got the opportunity to work on smart city projects, Ludhiana. That was one step ahead. And then again I was very much into learning from different online courses. So that was like, now I just want to go about it and want to study it in depth. So that is how I entered into landscape.
Yeah, sometimes it's almost 80% in bachelors. During some coursework, we think that okay, this is the one we want to do forever. But yeah, it's like many times it happens. Like with me, it was like when I started doing it. Initially, I just wanted to do residences. Then, as the studio level changes, I think, but yes, I was for sure that I don't want to do housing. After urban design, I didn't wanted to do the urban design. So for me, I was excluding after the courses. I
we
didn't
get more we get more clarity as we move ahead, actually.
Yeah, because the basics are done now. So you get to know that okay, after this basics, I know that okay, I want to do this because I really enjoy this part of the field, you know. And obviously this is a specialization course, so it's great. And we are happy you shared so nice projects with us, with the students, done by well-known architects and good projects. It's like it's a good project which is shared.
Yes.
So
Actually, many people have this misconception. I also had this when I was studying, that it's only about gardens and parks, but it's actually the beginning. It's actually the
Yeah.
beginning. There is much more to it. It's
True.
so deep. We have so
Yeah.
much of scope into this profession.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I was going to ask her. Like, because some students, they really think it's only some garden design, or maybe some students sometimes they want to pursue, but they get scared that they only need will have to learn about botany. So only
Names of
plants
trees.
names, yeah. So students get scared. कि अरे landscape नहीं करना है, only plants के name, but it's really more to it. and not just designing gardens and all.
Do you really know all the names of plants and all?
Few of them.
Few of them, but still.
Few are there which see actually there are plants which are found in almost all the regions, and they are frequently used in many of the projects. So we get those on our fingertips, but there are many endangered species. There are many extinct species, vulnerable species. So it's actually very difficult to learn 600 to 700 plants. So it is not necessary to learn all those. It's just that you should be knowing about the native plants of the region. Wherever you are planning to, wherever you are going for a project in any region, you should know the native plants of that region, because it is the native plants which will survive the most.
That can be as a part of research itself, right?
Yes, that can be a part of research. We have a separate map which is being prepared during our analysis, that is planting design plan. So in planting design plan, we often mark our areas where we are going to give particular kinds of plants. So it could be because of the functional reasons, it could be because of the ecological reasons, it could be because of visual barrier or screening. So that depends.
True.
So as I mentioned, yeah.
There's a question here. Sorry. How can we achieve mini ecosystem on a smaller site? I guess
So
somebody's having a project.
So mini ecosystems, as I mentioned, that you should be knowing the native trees of those region, native plants. So if you have a small project, say you have a 1 acre project, 1 acre site, and you want to give a micro habitat in that region. So first of all, you should be well versed with the soil type there. What kind of planting material will it support? What kind of plants will it support? That is the first step you should be knowing. So after you have the list of the plants, then you have to design the area in such a way that you create minimum fragments. So it should be a large area that will give the species richness. So that will attract all the fauna, that will attract bees. Then there will be the processes like pollination and all, and then it will create a good, nice micro habitat or mini habitat.
Okay. Thank you, Manmeet. I think I don't know if it's he or she. So I think that question is being answered nicely. Yeah. I'll just check if there are any other questions. Okay. So there is not as such. Maybe if students, they can connect with us, so we can again forward some questions to you, or
Sure.
yeah. I think okay. So anyways, thank you, Manmeet. Thank you so much for being a part of this webinar, for accepting our invitation and giving us such a wonderful session on landscape design, and also giving insights to all the participants over here, how a landscape architect can contribute a lot to this world, to our overall environment, right? Thank you, Manmeet.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope students, the participants, they have got really, it has been benefited to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks to the
Manmeet.
entire team for giving me this opportunity to showcase my work and reach to the students. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manmeet. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for being here.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.